Yes, there we go. We are live. Happy hump day, or I guess if you're watching the recording, whatever day it is a beautiful day, and welcome to my live with Victoria Vix Reitano. I love when you have like a middle name, in the yeah, and you can tell us more about how you came up with that nickname, which I love. I'm Claire Wasserman, founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. We are an educational platform, global community, and of course, a book all about helping women earn more and live better. As part of that mission, we invite the world's best coaches, best women to come up here and to share their pieces of expertise, their stories, just to get you all in a better place. Swinging bigger is kind of the new thing I've been talking about, is like, how can we help people take bigger swings in their life? And that can look differently for a lot of different people. And for today's conversation, what I love is we're talking about building a business, but specifically how to do that without burning out. I think that's huge. When I first started Ladies Get Paid, a lot of the conversation was just about pure ambition, moving upwards. But now I'm like, at what cost? At what cost? It's got to be done intentionally, sustainably. So huge. This is just a huge, much needed topic. Of course, if you're looking to build a business, you absolutely need to listen to this. But even if you're not, doesn't matter. We all want to do sustainable, good work. But Victoria, first, I want to welcome you. Thank you for being here. And if you could give us just more information on exactly what you do, including what is a fractional CMO. I know what it is, but there may be people out there that don't. What you do and why you do it, and also why you chose this subject. This topic is the one you wanted to focus on for our conversation today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Claire. It's a pleasure to reconnect. I had done a webinar on side hustle success during the pandemic for Ladies Get Paid, and I've been a big fan of Ladies Get Paid for a while, love the work that you do, and I think it's very much needed. So Victoria Vix is what I generally go by professionally, because everybody calls me Victoria with the Fix, aka Vix the Fix. So what I have a fix for is many things, but mostly how to streamline your marketing, sales, and operations, whether that is in a corporate role, so the marketing of you as a professional, or you as a side hustler, or a combination of the two. And the reason that I chose the topic about burnout is because I have burned out more times than I care to admit, although part of this conversation is admitting that, and the key to burnout is vulnerability, right? Period, the end. And I understand that so many of us, especially those of us, in the elder millennial and or, zennial group, were really taught that hustle and that ambition and that living in that truly aggressive masculine energy. And I don't use that as a negative word, nor is this a gendered conversation, but it is an energy that is exhausting. And it is why now, post-pandemic, so many of us are coming back to the drawing board and saying, wait, like, what do I want my life to really look like? When I started my entrepreneur journey, I've been in marketing. Let me answer the question about fractional CMO. So essentially what that is hiring someone for a fraction of the time and a fraction of the cost to manage your entire marketing and sales ops, right? To figure out what strategies you need, what campaigns you need, and how to optimize the existing tools, tech, people, resources that you have in the system. And sometimes I bring in additional team members to support with paid ads, let's say, or content, or I will guide a media buying campaign, right? The reason that I'm qualified to do this is because in 2015, I built and launched a 6-figure award-winning advertising and marketing agency in 6 weeks. Talk about burnout, right? And then I grew that company dramatically from 2015 all the way through. And in 2021, in the same week that we opened up a massive office with a production studio that I had built out with profits I made during the pandemic, hired a team of 11, and onboarded our biggest project to date, my grandmother died. And for me, that was a shift, because the last conversation I had with her was at my desk, and it was on a Sunday morning. And I was super sad about that, right? Like, the pandemic showed us what we had, what we didn't have, and what we lost. And some of us didn't even realize what we had to lose. And I was definitely one of those people. I was someone where I was like, well, let me get this in place. Let me get the business in place. And then I can have supportive friends. And then I can have a supportive partner. And when my grandmother died, I really, grief is a change maker. Grief is an alchemist for sure. And for me, that's what it was. I was also raised to be one of those women where like, I can do it all. I don't need anybody.
Mhm.
I don't need anybody, but having a supportive boyfriend, a supportive partner makes a huge difference in my life, has made a huge difference in my professional life. And like, I never wanted to be, oh, I got a boyfriend and my life is great, right? I didn't want to be that girl, but I am 100% that woman, and I am grateful every day for that. And as I move into the next phase of my life, I just turned 35. So I'm thinking about like children and all the things that means. And, in 2017, when I was 29, I froze my eggs, and I thought that was the thing that would set me apart and help me be successful because I had time. But I didn't realize that it was so much more than that. So that's a big, overview. But before I started the agency, I was a TV producer, a journalist, and I worked at an ad agency. So I've had a lot of interesting experiences, and I'm happy to talk about all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate all of the, transparency. I think that's huge. Anybody who follows me knows that I'm extremely transparent about everything that I go through. I just don't know how you learn otherwise. You could read the stuff in a book, but until you experience it, deeply experience it, and figure out how to put something together that makes sense for you, and then you can hopefully help others with, in a more profound, at least empathetic way. In terms of building the business, so before we get to the burnout part, what were you doing if you were to go back and redo it or do it in a different way, right? Because you built this six-figure business in, you said 6 weeks, or, all these things that sound so impressive. I mean, they are so impressive, but, with every choice is a sacrifice. So what did you do then? And what would you do differently now if you were starting from scratch?
Yeah, great question. The one thing that I did then was, first of all, I was 27, right? So we need a lot less sleep, which that was good and bad, right? So the one thing that I would definitely do differently is not neglect my own health. So I actually, at the end of 2022, went into the IIN holistic health coaching program. So I'm now also a certified holistic health coach, because in 2020, I got diagnosed with hypothyroidism. I had been previously diagnosed with PCOS. And from 2020 to now, I lost about 90 pounds, which totally transforms the way you think about yourself, and also made me have a lot of thoughts about the US medical system and how they treat women. So that's like a whole other conversation for a whole nother day. However, that is the most important thing that I would do differently, is really focus on my well-being, not just, going to SoulCycle, drinking my green juice, and doing all the Instagrammable self-care things that we were taught in the mid 2000s, was the thing to do. And it wasn't. The other thing that I would do a little bit differently, one of the things that I did that was really good, was that I segmented the group of people on my LinkedIn specifically. I had all the platforms. I was big in social back in the day. I got the invite to Pinterest, right? All the things that all the digital producers were doing back then. Thought I was so cool. I had Google Wave. No one knows what that is, but it's fine. It's fine. Just aging myself right here. So, I had done a good job of staying connected through my undergraduate career with people that I met, people that I just like had coffee with. Like, I did all that stuff, right? And you don't necessarily think about it when you're in that phase or when you're early career. You're just trying to get by. You're just trying to live, right? But what I did that was really important was I asked for reviews. So, tangible action item from today's thing, no matter how old you are, is go back and look for 3 to 5 people who you haven't connected with, who know someone who could potentially support you, right? But what I did specifically, and what I still call the state of the Vix, and what I teach people, is to segment them into 3 groups. People who can hire you directly. So those are decision makers, people, recruiters, like anybody that that actually can literally hand you a check or a job offer, whatever that looks like for you. People who know people who can hire you. So those are individuals who work at different organizations, or maybe people that you went to college with who are now higher up in organizations and have decision-making powers that they didn't have 5 years ago, things like that, right? Like, people have moved around a lot during the pandemic, and I think that we often underestimate that. So that was something I really did. At that point, I was 5 years out of college in 2015 when I started the business. So a lot of us were starting to get into these more important roles and had more decision-making power. So that was a good thing for me. And the third part is people who can promote you. Like if you're doing something like this or whatever, people who will just be like, oh my God, I saw Vix, like she's doing this thing. It's great to see her, blah, 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 right? Comment, connect, engage, talk to them as if you're literally walking past them on the street instead of talking to them like you're a marketing bot. That's like the big thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a question because I'm on the fence about this one. So at the beginning of your career or when you're first starting a business, I do feel like there are things that you should be doing that later on as you grow, you should definitely not be doing, which is probably saying yes to everything. That to me is a good thing at a certain stage in a certain context. And at some point, that's actually hurting your growth. However, that being said, when you look back, again, if you were to redo this now, would be some of those, like, how do you know when to stop and to start some of those habits? And also what might be some good habits that you would have built in from the beginning? I heard you on the well-being. I think it's important for people to define what that means for them. And something as simple as, drinking a lot of water like this, making it easy for yourself, or going for a walk every day, that's consistent instead of, expecting your exercise has to be some like crazy thing that is just not sustainable. I mean, I think that's actually the theme of all of my questions today probably will be, how do we build in sustainability to all of the ways that we sort of operate? But yeah, back to the question of like, what are some things that, you would do in the beginning, but then at what point do they become detrimental maybe?
So one of the things that I did, but that I feel I could have done better, however, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So one of the things that I did was that I had written up what I would now refer to as standard operating procedures, right? And I think a lot of people don't necessarily know what that is. All that is the process by which you, as a unique human being, do something, right? And I think a lot of times when we're in corporate roles, we don't do it because we feel, especially early in your career, like, oh my God, if somebody knows how to do this, like they don't need me, right? Except what we forget is that by teaching and guiding and getting support, you actually free yourself up to do the stuff that matters. So I did it right in that I knew that I had to write down how I was doing it, but I didn't do it right in that when there was resistance, like for 6 months in, I had hired an intern because everybody, entrepreneurs talk about, well, I just hire free labor and it'll be easy, blah, blah, blah. Like it's not easy because they don't have my brain and I can't replicate my brain. That's what I get paid for. But I can figure out what smaller tasks can be, like managing my LinkedIn and talking like me. A simple way to do that for anybody is to create a response grid. And it's a stoplight system, right? It's a Google Excel sheet, right? Or whatever your Excel of choice is. I'm not an Excel person. I like Google Sheets. You do red, yellow, green, red being things that should be answered within a day. Obviously, if you're running a business, it's a little bit different. Maybe that's a 6 to 12 hour thing for emergencies. Yellow being 24 hours and green being like 48 hours. And then put in common things that you want to talk about or say or whatever. And then put in responses for every platform. So you could literally hire someone and say, please manage my LinkedIn inbox, right? But you can't do that until you do the foundational work. So to answer your question, one of the things that I do think you should say yes to everything. And I do think that you should, which is what I did, right? Like I took on all weird stuff. Like I was doing totally bizarro things for people. Like I was writing people's emails. I was like managing, like I was doing some VA tasks while I was also running Facebook ads back then, while I was also doing like random printed notices for people. Like I was literally like, it's in the bucket of marketing. Like, cool, I'll figure it out. Like, whatever, I'm into it. Like, let's do it. I was building people's websites because that was something I had done in my full-time job, right? So all those things were good and experiential for me, but it allowed me to like build my frameworks, build my unique systems, and then allowed me to say like, what tasks should I be focused on and which ones should I say, okay, these are no more for me.
Ooh, that's a really good one. Yeah, delegation. I'd love to talk more about that. And then also anything that has made your life easier. So in that vein of creating the like operating systems, or for me, it's like free FAQ, even just in notes on my computer, if you're constantly responding to the same emails, why would you rewrite it? Anything and everything that you have done to just make your work and life easier, share those hacks, please. Please do.
So I call automation your business wing woman, and like it could be your professional wing woman. You know, like I have always looked at my career as a business, mainly because no one else does. No one cares about how much money you make or how much vacation time you get or whatever. And every single book talks about how women who negotiate make more money and have more flexibility and all these things. And, you know, my mom is still an attorney and I grew up like under her desk. So I knew what it was to like have a mom who couldn't make it to be mom class mom, right? Because she was in court, like defending her client, you know? So I started the business because I wanted that flexibility. And I quickly figured out that the system I was building was not giving me the flexibility. I was like, I'm going to be sitting at this desk with a baby strapped to my chest. Like, while that probably will still be my reality in some way, shape, or form, I didn't want it to be that I had to be at the desk with the baby strapped to my, like, I wanted that to be more of an experience like I learned, right? Where it was like, oh, I saw my mom work and I want my kids to see that. I want them to experience that. So ChatGPT is actually something that I love and that I use often. Before that, I use Zapier a lot. So like people get really overwhelmed by tech. Tech is my second language. I always say if you could plug an iPhone into me, you would, right? Like I just get it. It's just my thing. So I used to use Zapier to remind myself about stuff all the time. Or there was this old app called Boomerang. Now Gmail has it built in natively, but I'm sure, yeah, like some people remember it, where you could pre-send your emails. So I was doing that constantly. And then I would also, so I say like help future you out. So I would preset all these emails. Like let's say you get off a client call, right? Or you get off a meeting call. Take the notes and then make an outstanding items list and put them in the notes for the next call in the calendar invite. Another thing that I've been doing with people is like if you do a coffee check-in, put an all-day calendar invite on both calendars, and in the notes section, put follow up via email or text or DM or however you're communicating with that person, and make it that you both get the notification. So like then it's on their calendar, it's on yours, but it's not like a hard invite, right? It's more of a soft like, hey, just a reminder, right? Whenever you get off the phone with people, set up reminders for whatever you said you would do. I also record every call I do, and I let people know the reason I'm recording all my calls is because I want to be able to remember exactly what we talked about and use artificial intelligence automation to pull out a transcript.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I love ChatGPT for just to have it. I have it analyze. I have all these crazy prompts, some that I bought, some that I found, some that I created, but I have it analyze my website. It's like a gut check for me, right? It's like, hey, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing what I want? Or like, what's a good way to automate this process, right? Because it's a machine and the machine doesn't think about, oh, would it be too hard to ask someone to do? No, the machine is just like, this is the way to do it.
Yeah. Yes.
So.
Yes. We're absolutely using ChatGPT for a lot of stuff, and make sure everybody registered ladiesgetpaid.com. If you sign up for our newsletter, we have guides, free guides that you can download for all different ways to use ChatGPT and various prompts. Interesting that you bought some prompts too. I'll have to talk to Ashley. She's the real guru when it comes to ChatGPT. I know she's learned a lot of prompts from TikTok as well. And then in terms of that transcript and note taking, I'm loving Super Normal. Also Sendly is good, right? And it automatically records it, transcribes it, gives a summary and action steps immediately. And you can forward it directly to the person that you talk to. I'm actually using it as the basis of blog posts, right? So for clients that I coach, I want to be able to write about them either for the blog or for LinkedIn. Identifying details protected, of course. But, you know, I was taking my time to like write out my own notes and like put my own thoughts into it. And I thought, no, let's use AI. And the way that my brain should be for is coming up with initial ideas and for editing. But for the first draft of anything, rely on AI. You might as well.
And I think, you know, there's another one that I really liked for a little while that I've given to some of the clients that I coach, and it's been Poised. So when they want to learn how to sell better or how to give it, Poised basically listens to your calls, tells you if you're talking too much, if you don't, how the sound of your voice is. Like, do you sound confident? Are you up talking? Do you not sound as confident in what you're saying? You know, are there questions, etc. So that was like helpful a little bit. And you could use it to test, like you test with some friends or whatever to see how it feels, right? If it's too invasive. or not. There's a few different superhuman AI, and I can add the link. I will add the link to this conversation. That their newsletter is great because they talk a lot about prompts. They give you an example, but then they also do a rundown of like new AI tools. There are AI tools now that will make slides from your notes. So like I'm a writer, right? I'm a trained journalist. So to me, to write stuff out is faster because I know what I want to say. But then to have AI turn it into video or have AI turn it into slides. I hate slides, even using Google Slides, but there's tons of plugins that you could get to do that for you.
Yes, I think before you make any kind of choice, any kind of decision in your day, just contemplate, is there a way to do this that could be easier? And if you're not sure what the answer is, just Google it. What about managing your time and your energy, and then also preventing yourself from overworking and over delivering, which is obviously more of a question, I think, of like worthiness. Do you believe, there's some core stuff happening there, but just in that like schedule design, what have you learned?
Yeah, so this is a really, really hard one. And I think it's more difficult for folks who identify it as more dominant feminine energy, right? Again, not a gender thing, more of a feeling thing. If you're a more empathetic or sensitive human, you're going to feel bad, right? Okay, fine. Well, would you feel bad if you can't get out of bed because you overworked yourself? Or would you feel bad because you told someone no, right? Like what's the
Right.
worst feel bad? So and I actually had lost my way on this because I was like, oh, well, I have to be accommodating, blah, 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 right? So we all go through these phases. And this was very recently that I was like, well, I feel bad. I want to do this. I want to make accommodation, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work for me. I take calls Tuesdays and Thursdays. I literally have a note that says what my appointment slots are. I only take calls after 1 o'clock. And there on Thursdays, I do 11, but I only do it every other week, 11, 12 slots, for so many reasons. One of the main reasons is because I need a morning workout on certain days. And due to the times, like that has become my priority. So my calendar looks like a massive Tetris thing. And every quarter, I allow myself to have an hour. So I use ClickUp. ClickUp is my favorite human project management tool. I also use it with my team. I use it with some clients, and I have a free template, which I'll share for like how to organize your entrepreneur life in ClickUp. And I do things in there where the structure is, and you can make this task list. Like you don't have to do it in ClickUp. I like ClickUp because of the reminders and the automation and the AI and all that stuff. But you could just do a Google Doc with a to-do list tracker. I call everything a tracker. And it's today, this week, this month, this year, this quarter, or well, this quarter, this year, like right in the chronological order. And then it's just put it on there. So it's like an idea parking lot. I read this book, Agile for Everybody, and one of my jobs was software tech reporting. So I like learned Kanban and Agile and that was like my beat, right? That's what I covered. And I learned all these software development things. And I was like, wait, this could be used to optimize humans too, right? And that was when I was super young. I was like 21 writing about this stuff. And I was like, how can I make this work? So I think it's really about calendar management is about boundaries with yourself, which was my big, obviously we took this conversation in amazing directions, but my big thing for burnout and why I brought this up was it is a boundary conversation. It is a mindset conversation, and it's a self-worth conversation. And boundaries with yourself are the hardest ones to maintain. Like personally, struggling with eating. I just, my boyfriend and I moved in recently. He eats a lot later. I'm struggling with that. Like, and I like that time, but like, I can't go to bed at 11:30 every night. I can't do it. I can't function that way. So I'm making it work, and I'm making the hard decisions for myself. It's about reparenting yourself. Like everybody needs to do it. You could have had the most amazing parents in the world, and you still need to figure out how to reparent yourself and say to yourself, like, I'm doing this for this reason. So the motivation and your like lens through which you make decisions should be your motivation. And, cognitive behavioral therapy talks a lot about that. And I use a lot of CBT techniques with my clients, with myself, and really with everybody I talk to, because we all need a little extra support.
You are such a wealth of information. I feel like you have really, really good book recommendations, program recommendations. Obviously, you mentioned a bunch of different kinds of apps. So please, once we're done, if you could just post on our LinkedIn under the recording with obviously information to you, but some of your favorites. What has been helpful as a tangible takeaway in that, okay, am I about to overwork or overthink or overcommit? Just what has helped? I mean, it's an ongoing process, but yeah, that in the moment stuff and or preventative measures you've been able to take to just set up those guardrails a little bit better?
Yeah, so it's super high tech. It's a 5:45 p.m. iPhone alarm that says in the note, I take the space to enjoy the life I've created.
Right.
Like
Oh,
that's the guardrail, right?
nice.
Because part of like, and I'm sure my boyfriend watches. He's very active on LinkedIn, so like he's gonna be embarrassed, but I don't care. But part of like what my life is about is it's so much fuller because of the like. I was single for almost a decade because I didn't want connection, because I didn't want the responsibility of that. Like I had very surface level friendships. Like these are not things I'm proud of, right?
Right.
But this
Right.
was what the reality was.
Yeah.
So, from a burnout perspective and from a how do I manage my time and like what are the guardrails and how do I know that I'm burned out because I don't feel fulfilled. I'm born and raised New Yorker. So I always say, like, well, I want to kick rocks. Like when I'm twisted like that, I'm like, okay, something's got to give. And then I'm like, okay, what does that look like? Or, for me, the journey with PCOS and with hypothyroidism, and really why I went through the intuitive the health coaching program, because I had an undiagnosed eating disorder for most of my adult life, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And I had posted something about how you can't have a gut connection if your gut is broken. And like I have celiac disease also, so like my gut is disconnected. And like if everybody says, oh, I have a gut instinct. If you really don't listen to your body, or if you ignore it or put the snooze on it, which I did for so many years, you can't really understand what you need. So one of the things that I often do is like, I would love to meditate every day. That's like a long-term goal. But instead I listen to Jay Shetty on the Calm app for 7 minutes of calm. His
Yeah.
voice is amazing. And the other thing that I've been doing is listening to there's this like, I'll Teach You to Be Rich. Ramit is the guy's first name. I can't remember what his last name is, but I listen to that. I try to listen to audiobooks, being back in the city. Like I lived in Jersey for a while. Now I'm back in Manhattan. I'm on the train again, like, which I like adore. It's changed how I can do things. When you're walking the dog, like it is constantly about mindset, and also knowing like sometimes you just got to take a break, right? Sometimes I'm like, yeah, this is not a season of focusing on optimizing my health, right? Like managing it. Yeah, you have to do that every day. You're a grown up, it's your job. You have to eat right. You have to do all these things. But like being obsessive about certain things, like I'm not in that season. Like this is the summer. This is the season that I want to be able to enjoy or whatever, right? So I think that it is really about understanding and blocking that time. Like it's one day. I also, since I went on the first date with my boyfriend, I have not worked a weekend, and we've been together over a year and a half. So
Good.
like that's the thing, because I like spending time with him, right? So it's like find something that inspires you to say no more.
Yeah. Also, less is more. And also,
Yeah.
when you think, you're like, oh, when I say you, I mean me. So when I'm taking a break and feeling guilty for it, like I should be working, I've now realized, wait a minute, taking a break now allows me to do my work better and more refreshed and fulfilled. Or in the times when I let my brain wander, instead of like must be focused and productive, it's actually when I come up with my best ideas. Like, or to your point of like, maybe the healing, the instinct, it comes from the body and not from the mind, right? So we got to just be open to trying new things, I think. And I mean, you've done that beautifully. I know we only have a minute left, but I have to ask this. In all of this work that you have done, so in the losing of the 90 pounds, in the sort of in the burnout journey, has that changed obviously how you operate, but what you're doing, what excites you about your work, how that looked a number of years ago to now, shifting focus, like what you want to provide for people, just even as like a service offering, has that impacted that, or is it just how you do the work?
No, it's 100%. So I still have, gratefully, enterprise clients, but I primarily I hunt, which is, what we say as an entrepreneur, like, what are you looking for? What type of sales hunting are you doing? I work with women, like, and my enterprise clients tend to be my contact is women. Yeah, of course there's men in the organization, but like, I help women build 6-figure revenue streams, digital revenue streams without burnout. That is what I do. That is who I am. And I do that so that the mother wound does not continue, so that there are kids who have their moms there for every class mom thing, even if, you're there and you're like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. These are not the women you're like, this is not the group of people I want to be with right now. As a human, you're like, I want to be in this space. but I want everybody to be able to be there and be present
Yeah.
with their children and whatever that looks like for them and their
Nice.
families. So.
Amazing. And also the last question, or second to last question, that I ask everybody who comes on is just fundamental elements of being your own biggest champion, which I really define as self-advocacy. You've already given so many. So I guess I would say, is there anything that you haven't yet covered that you feel like is important for folks to know in this sort of building of a business without burnout conversation?
Yeah, you're allowed to say no, and you're allowed to change your mind.
Yeah. Love it. And perhaps most importantly, where can people find you, follow you, and pay you?
My favorite, VixReitano.com. And I actually do this 30-day jumpstart that is $575 for 3 calls with me. So it's a whole month of Vix for a very low rate, because I want to help as many people as humanly possible. Obviously, if you're a massive enterprise company, it's a very different structure. But for those of you who are just looking for some ways to grow, that's what I do. So VixReitano.com.
Oh, good to see Andy. Andy did we did a live resume coaching at our job seeker support group this past Monday, and Andy's awesome. She asked, where can we find the resource list and contact information for Victoria following the call? Well, good news. Once we're done, she's going to go ahead and post that in the comments underneath the LinkedIn recording. So if anybody's watching on Facebook and YouTube, go on over to the Ladies Get Paid LinkedIn page. I also encourage you to, of course, connect with us there, connect with me there. Also, I'm on Instagram at Claire Gets Paid, and we have a free community. Welcome to all, ladiesgetpaid.com. You can also upgrade for monthly coaching, group coaching with me, and lots of other great things. But Vix, thank you so much. Always good to connect. And as she mentioned earlier, she did a course with us. So if you go to ladiesgetpaid.com/courses, you can find it there. Super appreciate you, and to everybody who gave us their precious time. Already got some lovely comments from folks, and I can't wait to see that resource list. It's going to be great. I know it. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Now go get paid. Bye.